A stray dog came into the house during the worst blizzard in decades, and what happened next shocked everyone, including Elena herself. She thought she was saving one desperate animal, but Luna was carrying a secret that would change everything. 6 tiny heartbeats were growing inside her, and when those puppies were born in Elena's living room, it wasn't just new life entering the world, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. But here's what no one saw coming. This wasn't just about rescuing animals. The county had plans to destroy the very woods where Luna came from, threatening every creature that called it home. As Elena fought to save the puppies, she discovered something even more shocking: the power to transform not just her own broken heart, but an entire community. Sometimes salvation comes on 4 paws, in the middle of a storm, when you least expect it. The wind howled like a wounded animal against the old farmhouse windows. Inside, Elena Marlowe sat at her kitchen table, steam rising from her evening tea. The chair across from her remained empty, always empty where her husband used to sit. She'd kept the ritual of making 2 cups, though the second grew cold each night. Outside, the blizzard raged with unprecedented fury. Weather reports called it the storm of the decade. Elena pulled her wool cardigan tighter, listening to the house creak under winter's assault. She'd weathered storms before, both outside and within her heart. A faint scratching interrupted her thoughts. She paused, teacup halfway to her lips. There it was again, desperate, insistent. It wasn't the wind. Elena set down her cup and moved toward the back door. The scratching grew louder, more urgent. Her heart raced as she reached for the handle. Whatever was out there needed help. She opened the door, and the wind nearly knocked her backward. Snow swirled into her kitchen, but there, collapsed on her doorstep, was a dog unlike any she'd ever seen. Mud-soaked, ribs visible through matted fur, ice crystals clinging to her coat like tiny diamonds of desperation. The dog's eyes met Elena's deep, pleading, intelligent. They seemed to hold secrets, stories of survival Elena couldn't imagine. "Oh, you poor thing," Elena whispered, her voice breaking the silence she'd maintained for months. She hesitated only a moment. Taking in strays meant getting attached. Attachment meant potential loss. But those eyes, just for tonight, she said firmly, stepping aside. The dog limped inside, leaving muddy paw prints on Elena's clean floor. Elena didn't care. She grabbed towels from the linen closet, gently drying the animal's soaked fur. Beneath the grime was a beautiful coat, silver gray with darker markings. "Let's get some food in you." Elena heated leftover beef stew, placing it in a bowl on the floor. The dog ate carefully, politely, as if she'd once known better times. As the dog finished eating, Elena studied her. No collar, no tags. Where had she come from? In this storm, she couldn't have traveled far. The dog curled up by the wood stove, her body finally relaxing for the first time in what must have been days. Elena watched from her chair, conflicted emotions swirling through her chest. Outside, snow continued to pile higher, sealing them both inside together. Morning light filtered through frost-covered windows, revealing a world buried in white. The storm hadn't subsided. Elena woke to find the dog still by the stove, alert and watching her with those intelligent eyes. "Good morning," Elena said softly, surprised by how natural it felt to speak aloud again. She prepared oatmeal for herself and found leftover chicken for her unexpected guest. The dog ate gratefully but never greedily, maintaining a dignity that impressed Elena. Elena opened the back door briefly, assessing the situation. Snow had drifted to the windows. Her truck was completely buried. Even if she wanted to take the dog somewhere, which she was beginning to doubt she did, it was impossible. "Looks like you're stuck with me," she told the dog, who tilted her head as if understanding perfectly. Elena knelt beside the animal, checking for injuries. Her ribs showed, but there were no cuts or broken bones, just exhaustion and hunger, and something else. A calmness that suggested this dog had known love before. That evening, as Elena sat reading by the fire, the dog approached slowly. Without invitation, she laid her head across Elena's slippers, a gesture so gentle it brought tears to Elena's eyes. "You're a good girl, aren't you?" Elena whispered, stroking the soft fur. For the first time in months, Elena fell asleep in her chair, lulled by the rhythmic breathing of another living creature. The third morning brought sunlight reflecting off pristine snow. Elena woke to find the dog sitting by the back door, patient but alert. She opened it, and the dog stepped out, sniffed the air, then hurried back inside. Elena actually laughed for the first time in months. The sound startled them both. "You remind me of the moon," Elena said, studying the dog's silver coat. "Quiet, constant, beautiful. Luna. That's what I'll call you." She found an old flannel shirt of her husband's in the closet, cutting a strip to fashion a temporary collar. As she tied it around Luna's neck, her fingers trembled slightly. It felt like introducing Luna to her husband's memory, somehow making it official. Elena prepared a more permanent bed for Luna in the corner, using blankets and pillows. Luna inspected it thoroughly, then settled in with obvious contentment. They shared leftover roasted chicken that evening. Elena found herself talking to Luna about the farm, about the long winter, about things she'd kept locked inside for too long. Luna listened with the attention of someone who understood the weight of words. Outside, icicles began to drip, the first sign of eventual thaw. But inside, something else was melting too, the ice around Elena's heart. That night, Luna fell asleep with her head on Elena's lap as they sat by the fire. Elena stroked her fur, feeling a peace she'd forgotten existed. In the soft glow of the flames, she didn't notice the subtle roundness beginning to show in Luna's belly. Elena returned from the shed with an armload of firewood, Luna greeting her with enthusiastic tail wagging. But something caught Elena's attention. Luna's belly seemed rounder than it had just days before. She assumed the regular meals were helping Luna recover from malnutrition. Later that evening, while brushing Luna's now glossy coat, Elena felt something that made her heart skip. Movement. Distinct, unmistakable movement beneath her hand. "Oh my," she breathed, sitting back on her heels. Luna looked up at her with those knowing eyes, and Elena suddenly understood. Luna wasn't just a stray who'd found shelter, she was an expectant mother who'd found sanctuary. Elena's mind raced back to her own pregnancy years ago, brief and heartbreaking. The loss had devastated her and her husband, creating a silence between them that never fully healed before his accident. The familiar ache of old grief threatened to overwhelm her. She sat on the couch, staring at Luna as the dog settled comfortably in her bed. How many puppies? When would they come? Elena knew nothing about delivering puppies, about caring for newborns. "I don't even know how to do this," she whispered to Luna, who simply watched her with calm trust. But even as fear gripped her, Elena felt something else stirring, a protective instinct she thought had died with her own losses. Luna was counting on her, and Elena would not let her down. Morning light streamed into the kitchen as Elena sat at her table, making a list. Towels, blankets, puppy food, heating pads. She drove into town through slush and melting snow, her first trip in weeks. At the pet store, she felt overwhelmed by choices. A man nearby noticed her confusion. "First-time puppy delivery?" he asked kindly. He was tall, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a camera bag slung over his shoulder. "Is it that obvious?" Elena managed a small smile. "I'm Daniel Hayes, wildlife photographer. I've helped with a few animal births." He guided her through the essentials, explaining whelping boxes and what to expect. "Here's my card. Call if you need help. I live just outside town." Elena studied the card. Daniel Hayes, wildlife photography. She hadn't expected kindness from a stranger. "Thank you. I'm Elena Marlowe." "The old Marlowe farm? Beautiful property. I've photographed the woods behind your place, amazing wildlife corridor." Elena nodded, pocketing his card along with her receipt. Back home, she set up a whelping box near the wood stove, arranging towels and blankets with meticulous care. Luna supervised, tail wagging approval. Outside, snow began falling again, but gently this time, not the desperate storm that had brought Luna to her door. Elena folded the last blanket, the house warm with anticipation and purpose she hadn't felt in years. A week later, after feeding Luna breakfast, Elena collected mail from the box at the end of her long driveway. Among the usual bills was an official envelope from the county planning department. She opened it while Luna napped in a patch of sunlight. The letter detailed plans for a new housing development. Cedar Grove Estates to be built in the woods behind her property. Construction would begin in spring, pending final approvals. Elena's heart sank. These were the woods Daniel had mentioned, the wildlife corridor she'd admired from her kitchen window. This was likely where Luna had come from, driven out by preliminary clearing or simply abandoned when development preparations began. The letter included a date for a public hearing. Elena had avoided town meetings, avoided public anything, for 2 years. But looking at Luna, now heavy with puppies, she felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just about development. It was about every creature like Luna who depended on that forest for survival. How many other pregnant animals would be displaced? How many wouldn't be lucky enough to find a warm door and a caring heart? Elena placed the letter beside her teacup, her gaze moving between it and Luna's swelling belly. For the first time since her husband's death, she felt called to fight for something beyond her own survival. The woods had given her Luna. Now Luna was asking her to give something back. Night fell with unusual restlessness. Luna paced Elena's living room, whining softly, unable to settle. Elena woke from her chair by the fire, instantly alert. "What is it, girl?" she whispered, but she already knew. Luna's breathing had changed, quick and shallow. Her eyes sought Elena's with an urgency that communicated everything. It was time. Elena grabbed the prepared towels and readied the whelping box, remembering Daniel's instructions. Stay calm, let Luna lead. Be ready to help, but don't interfere unless necessary. Luna circled the box several times before settling in with a deep sigh. The contractions began slowly, then intensified. Outside, the wind howled as if echoing the primal urgency inside the warm farmhouse. Elena knelt beside the box, one hand gently stroking Luna's head. "I'm here," she whispered. "We're going to do this together." Luna's eyes never left Elena's face as the first contraction peaked. In that moment, Elena felt connected to something ancient and sacred, the miracle of new life, arriving despite winter's grip, despite loss, despite fear. "You're so brave," Elena told Luna as another contraction came. "Braver than me." But even as she said it, Elena felt her own courage building. She was about to help bring new life into the world, and nothing, not grief, not fear, not inexperience, would stop her from doing it right. Through the long night, Elena witnessed a miracle she'd never imagined. One by one, 6 puppies entered the world, 3 black like velvet, 2 brown like autumn leaves, and 1 speckled like scattered stars. Elena assisted with trembling hands, drying each tiny body, clearing airways, placing them near their mother's warmth. Each puppy that took its first breath felt like a victory against all the losses she'd endured. Luna proved herself a natural mother, nuzzling each baby with fierce tenderness. Her exhaustion was evident, but her eyes held a contentment that made Elena's heart swell. "Look what you did," Elena whispered in wonder. "Look at these beautiful babies." As dawn broke over the snow-covered farm, Elena sat beside the whelping box, watching the puppies nurse. 6 tiny miracles, each one perfectly formed, each one breathing steadily. The smallest, a speckled female, seemed determined despite her size. Elena felt something profound shift within her chest. For 2 years, she'd existed in a world of endings, her husband's death, her miscarriage, her dreams of family. But here, in her living room, were 6 perfect beginnings. The county letter still lay on the counter, its threat unchanged, but everything else had changed. These puppies deserved to grow up in a world where woods remained wild, where mothers could find safe places to give birth, where kindness still existed. Elena wiped tears from her cheeks, not of sadness this time, but of overwhelming gratitude. She had work to do. 2 days after the miraculous night, Elena did something she hadn't done in months. She took photographs. Using her old digital camera, she captured Luna nursing her babies, the puppies sleeping in a perfect pile, their tiny paws and peaceful faces. That evening, she posted the photos online with Luna's rescue story. She wrote simply, "A brave mother found shelter in a storm. Now her babies need our help finding homes when they're ready." Elena had expected perhaps a few polite responses. Instead, messages poured in. Offers to donate supplies, questions about adoption, shares from strangers moved by Luna's story. Her inbox filled with warmth from people she'd never met. Daniel visited the next day, carrying puppy formula and a professional camera. "I saw your post. Mind if I help document this? These photos could really help with adoptions." Elena found herself nodding, surprised by how comfortable Daniel felt in her space. He moved quietly, respectfully, capturing moments Elena wouldn't have thought to photograph. "You have a gift for storytelling," he said, reviewing the images. "These photos show more than cute puppies. They show hope." Elena closed her laptop that evening, amazed by the response from strangers. She'd been alone so long, she'd forgotten how many good people existed in the world. Luna's story was becoming bigger than just one dog and her puppies. It was becoming a reminder of what was possible when kindness met need. Over the following week, Elena's quiet farmhouse became a hub of unexpected activity. Neighbors she barely remembered dropped by with supplies, soft blankets, puppy toys, homemade casseroles for Elena herself. Grace Miller, a retired school teacher Elena vaguely recalled from town functions, arrived with her husband Tommy, a weathered man with gentle hands and a carpenter's eye for detail. "Heard about your rescue project," Grace said, settling into Elena's kitchen with natural ease. "Tommy and I want to help." They stayed for hours, discussing the county development, sharing stories Elena had missed during her years of isolation. She learned about other families concerned about the woods, about a growing opposition movement that lacked organization and leadership. Daniel visited often, photographing the puppy's growth for online updates. His presence became comfortable, natural. He helped with feedings, shared stories of wildlife he'd documented, listened when Elena talked about her husband. Daniel said one evening as they watched the puppies play, "Some people are suggesting you turn this place into a proper animal sanctuary. There's real community support building." Elena looked around her transformed living room puppies tumbling across blankets donated by strangers. Luna watching contentedly from her bed, her kitchen table covered with cards and letters from supporters. For the first time in years, Elena's house felt truly alive. And for the first time since her husband's death, she felt part of something larger than her own grief. Evening approached as Elena arranged chairs in her living room, mismatched seats borrowed from neighbors and pulled from storage. About a dozen locals had accepted her invitation to discuss the development threat. Luna lay peacefully with her puppies in the corner, providing a living symbol of what they were fighting to protect. The smallest puppy had grown stronger, her speckled coat now fluffy and distinctive. "I never thought I'd host a town meeting," Elena admitted to Daniel as he helped arrange the last chair. "You're doing great. Just speak from the heart." When everyone arrived, Elena felt her old shyness return. But looking at Luna, she found her voice. She spoke quietly but clearly about finding Luna in the storm, about the puppies born in safety, about the woods that had sheltered Luna before driving her to seek human help. "That forest isn't just trees," Elena said, her voice growing stronger. "It's home to creatures who can't speak for themselves. If we don't protect it, where will the next Luna go?" Tommy Miller spoke about the construction impact on local water systems. Grace discussed organizing community opposition. Others shared concerns about traffic, noise, environmental damage. When everyone left, Daniel lingered on the porch, You have something special, Elena. You make people believe we can actually win this. Elena watched taillights disappear down her driveway, feeling something she'd almost forgotten. The power of people united by shared purpose. Days blended into a rhythm Elena had never experienced. Early morning puppy feedings, afternoon visitors, evening updates to their growing online community. Daniel visited daily, his photography documenting not just puppies but the transformation of Elena's property into something resembling a sanctuary. Donations increased beyond anything Elena had imagined. Supporters from neighboring counties sent supplies and money. A local veterinarian offered discounted services. Someone suggested launching a formal fundraiser to establish the sanctuary permanently. "Look at this," Elena said one evening, showing Daniel messages on her laptop. "A family in the next county wants to surrender their elderly dog. They can't afford his medical care, but they can't bear to put him down." Daniel leaned over her shoulder to read, his presence warm and reassuring. "You ready for that kind of commitment?" Elena looked at Luna, now completely recovered, watching her babies with devoted attention. The puppies had doubled in size, their personalities emerging. The speckled one was definitely the adventurer, always the first to explore beyond the whelping box. "I think I'm ready for a lot of things I wasn't ready for before," Elena admitted. Daniel smiled. "I've been thinking about that photography job in Colorado. The magazine wants an answer soon." Elena's heart clenched, but she kept her voice steady. "It sounds like an amazing opportunity." Outside her window, the woods stood silhouetted against the sunset. Still wild, still threatened, still worth fighting for. The online fundraiser launched on a Tuesday morning. Elena had never imagined creating anything so public, but with Daniel's help and Grace Miller's organizational skills, they'd built something impressive. Within a week, donations surpassed their initial goal of $5,000. The website featured Daniel's photographs, Elena's story, and updates on the puppy's growth. Comments poured in from around the country, stories of other rescues, promises of support, expressions of hope. The local newspaper called, requesting an interview. Elena's hands shook as she spoke to the reporter, but Luna lay at her feet, providing silent encouragement. The article ran with the headline, "From Grief to Grace. Local woman transforms tragedy into animal sanctuary." Daniel's photograph showed Elena holding the speckled puppy, both their faces illuminated by warm afternoon light. That weekend, Elena hosted her first puppy day, an open house where families could meet the puppies and learn about the sanctuary project. Children's laughter filled her yard for the first time in years. Parents asked thoughtful questions about animal care and wildlife protection. One little girl sat quietly with Luna, reading her a picture book while the mother dog listened with patient attention. Elena watched from the porch, her heart full of a joy she'd thought was gone forever. "This is what healing looks like," she whispered to herself, not knowing Daniel had heard and captured the moment with his camera. Monday morning brought Elena's first real crisis since Luna's arrival. Two puppies, one of the brown ones and the brave little speckled female, were lethargic, refusing to nurse normally. Elena called Daniel immediately, panic creeping into her voice. They drove the puppies to the emergency veterinary clinic in the next town, Elena cradling the speckled puppy who felt too warm against her chest. Dr. Sarah Chen, the emergency vet, examined both puppies with gentle efficiency. "It's a virus that's unfortunately common in young puppies, highly contagious. We need to monitor the others closely." "Will they?" Elena couldn't finish the question. "We'll do everything possible, but the next 48 hours are critical." The ride home was silent, Elena holding the medication and detailed care instructions. Daniel's presence was comforting, but even he couldn't ease the fear knotting in her stomach. Back at the farmhouse, Elena separated the sick puppies in a makeshift isolation area, following the vet's instructions precisely. Luna whined, sensing something was wrong with her babies. "It's okay, girl," Elena whispered, but her voice betrayed her terror. We're going to take care of them." As evening fell, Elena sat vigil beside the sick puppies, remembering another time she'd waited helplessly for medical news. Fear was a familiar companion, but this time, she wasn't facing it alone. Daniel stayed through the night, taking shifts so Elena could rest. Luna kept watch from her bed, motherly concern evident in every line of her body. Elena woke to Daniel, shaking her shoulder gently. She'd fallen asleep in the chair beside the sick puppies, who seemed slightly more alert in the morning light. "Elena, you need to see this," Daniel said quietly, holding her laptop. Their fundraising account had been hacked. Every dollar, nearly $15,000, was gone. Elena stared at the empty balance, feeling the familiar crushing weight of loss settling over her shoulders. "How?" she whispered. "I'm not sure. We'll report it, but recovery can take months, if at all." Elena looked at the sick puppies, at the medication she could barely afford, at Luna watching anxiously from across the room. The sanctuary dream that had seemed so real just days ago was crumbling. "The vet bill alone will wipe out what little savings I have left," Elena said, her voice hollow. "And the puppies need ongoing treatment." Daniel sat beside her. "I can cover the medical costs temporarily." "Number." Elena's response was immediate. "I won't accept charity. I've imposed on your kindness enough already." "It's not charity, Elena. It's partnership. We're in this together." But Elena had retreated into the protective shell she'd built after her husband's death. She'd opened her heart, allowed herself to hope, and once again, circumstances beyond her control were threatening to take it all away. Outside, clouds were gathering for another storm. Luna whined softly, sensing the change in Elena's mood, the return of the sadness that had defined her life before this magical winter. That evening, Daniel arrived with news that felt like another blow. He held an official letter from National Geographic, a dream assignment photographing wildlife in Alaska, a 6-month contract that could launch his career to new heights. "They need an answer by Friday," he said quietly. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. She'd known this moment would come. People like Daniel, talented, free-spirited, full of potential, didn't stay in small towns with broken women and failing rescue operations. "You should take it," she managed. "It's an incredible opportunity." "Elena." "No, really. You've done more than enough here. This is what you came to photograph wildlife for. Go photograph it." Daniel studied her face, recognizing the walls going back up, the protective distance she was creating. "What about the sanctuary? What about us?" "There is no sanctuary. The money's gone. The puppies are sick, and the county development will probably go through anyway." Elena's voice was flat, emotionless. "And there is no us. You're a photographer passing through. I'm just a widow with a stray dog." Elena spent the night tending to the sick puppies, avoiding Daniel's attempts to continue the conversation. The speckled puppy seemed weaker, her tiny body fighting battles Elena couldn't see. She whispered to Luna in the dark, "I'm sorry, girl. I thought I could save them. I thought I could save any of us." Outside, snow began falling again, not the gentle dusting of recent weeks, but the heavy, relentless storm that trapped everything in its path. Elena barely slept, moving between the sick puppies every few hours. By dawn, both seemed weaker, their breathing shallow. The speckled puppy, Elena's brave little fighter, was the worst. Luna hadn't eaten since the day before, refusing to leave her baby's side. She lay with her head stretched toward the isolation area, whimpering softly. Elena knelt beside the puppies, tears finally coming after days of numbness. "Please don't leave me too," she whispered. "I can't lose anyone else." The morning stretched endlessly. Elena tried to give the puppies their medication, but they were too weak to swallow properly. She called the emergency vet clinic, but Dr. Chen was in surgery. The receptionist promised to call back. Elena lit a candle from her husband's memorial shelf, something she hadn't done since the anniversary of his death. She placed it near the sick puppies, a small beacon in the growing darkness of her despair. "I tried," she told her husband's photograph on the mantel. "I tried to save something, to make something good happen, but I'm not strong enough." Luna approached slowly, resting her head on Elena's lap. Together they maintained vigil over the failing puppies, two mothers united in helpless love. Outside, the storm intensified, reminding Elena of the night Luna first arrived. Full circle, she thought, from desperate hope back to empty grief. The phone rang. Elena answered with trembling hands, preparing for the worst possible news. But it wasn't the vet clinic. It was Grace Miller. "Elena, dear, Tommy and I are coming over with some others. Don't argue, we're bringing supplies and help." Before Elena could protest, Grace had hung up. Within an hour, Elena's driveway filled with trucks and cars. Grace and Tommy arrived first, followed by other neighbors Elena barely knew. They brought cash in envelopes, medicine purchased from the pet store, homemade soup, and something more valuable, their presence. Dr. Harold Benton, a retired veterinarian Elena hadn't met, knocked on her door carrying an old medical bag. "Heard you might need some help," he said simply. Dr. Benton examined both puppies with gentle, experienced hands. "They're sick, but not hopeless. With proper care, they can recover." He showed Elena techniques for feeding weak puppies, administered stronger medication from his emergency supplies, and set up a monitoring schedule. "But the cost," Elena began. "There is no cost, doctor," Benton said firmly. "This is what neighbors do." Throughout the day, people came and went, bringing donations, offering help, sharing stories of animals they'd rescued. Elena realized she wasn't facing this crisis alone. She was surrounded by a community she'd forgotten existed. That evening, one sick puppy took water from a dropper. Then the speckled one opened her eyes and looked directly at Elena, tail moving weakly. Hope, Elena realized, was contagious too. Daniel arrived as Elena was giving the evening medications. Both puppies had shown improvement throughout the day, and Luna had finally eaten something. "How are they?" he asked quietly. "Better. Dr. Benton thinks they'll recover fully." Elena looked up at him. "Shouldn't you be packing for Alaska?" Daniel sat beside her on the floor. "I turned down the job." Elena's hands stilled on the puppy she was holding. "Why?" "Because this is where I belong. Because what we're building here matters more than any photograph I could take anywhere else." He paused. "Because I can't imagine leaving you to fight this battle alone." Elena felt tears threatening again, but these were different tears. "Daniel, I can't ask you to give up your career." "You didn't ask. I chose." He pulled out his phone, showing her messages. "And look, people have been donating directly to you, bypassing the hacked account. We're back up to $8,000. Elena scrolled through the individual donations, each one accompanied by messages of support. "I can't believe this." "Believe it. You saved Luna. Luna's story is saving the sanctuary, and the sanctuary is bringing together people who want to make a difference." Outside, the storm was ending. Moonlight broke through dispersing clouds, casting silver light across the snow-covered landscape. Luna raised her head, alert and hopeful, sensing the change in weather and in the hearts around her. "We're going to make this work," Daniel said, and Elena found herself believing him. Elena's growing confidence. Over the following week, Elena documented the puppy's recovery with meticulous care. The speckled puppy, whom she'd started calling Star for the white marking on her forehead, was first to return to normal nursing. The brown puppy followed suit 2 days later. Dr. Benton visited daily, teaching Elena more about animal care than she'd ever imagined knowing. "You have good instincts," he told her. "Have you considered veterinary training?" Elena laughed, but not dismissively. For the first time in years, she was considering many things she'd never thought possible. The healthy puppies grew rapidly, their personalities becoming more distinct. The black puppies were calm and thoughtful, like their mother. The brown ones were playful and bold. Star was curious about everything, always the first to explore new areas of the house. Daniel documented their progress with photographs that told a story of resilience and recovery. The online community following Luna's family had grown to include thousands of supporters from around the world. "We need to start thinking about adoptions," Daniel said one evening, watching the puppies tumble together in their play area. Elena nodded, though the thought of separating the family made her heart ache. "I want to make sure they go to families who will love them as much as Luna loves them." She'd already received dozens of applications from people wanting to adopt, each one carefully screened by Grace Miller, who'd appointed herself adoption coordinator. The letter arrived on a Tuesday that felt like any other Tuesday until Elena opened it. It was from lawyers representing the Morrison family, former owners of part of the disputed woodland. Elena read it twice before understanding. The Morrisons were donating 15 acres of forest directly adjacent to Elena's property, specifically for the animal sanctuary. "Daniel," she called, her voice shaking with excitement. He emerged from the puppy area, Star draped across his shoulder like a tiny, furry scarf. "What is it?" Elena handed him the letter, unable to speak. Daniel read it, his expression shifting from confusion to amazement. "Elena, do you understand what this means? This isn't just enough land for a sanctuary, it's enough to stop the development. The county can't build Cedar Grove estates with this parcel in the middle of their plans." Elena sank into her chair, overwhelmed. Why would they do this? The answer came in a phone call that evening. Mrs. Morrison, now in her 80s, had been following Luna's story online. Her own granddaughter had shared Elena's posts. "My husband and I raised our children in those woods," Mrs. Morrison explained. "When I saw what you were doing, saving that brave mother dog, bringing the community together, I knew it was time.